I'm Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday, Series Sunday, that day of the week where we talk all things one series and one series only. So, this week, we are dealing with a whole hot mess of a group of characters.
True.
These characters were a mess. The show, however, I think was better than people give it credit for. I agree. In my opinion. Today we're talking about House of Stars.
Yeah, I remember when they were rolling out this show. I remember when the first trailer dropped and I was like, ooh, this looks fun. Mainly because it looked different. It looked really different than like a lot of what we were getting. I feel like it was similar to like a War of Y. And I was like, ooh, drama, mystery, ensemble. We don't get a ton of ensemble shows.
Yeah, I don't know that I personally don't think that I would liken it to War of Y.
Okay.
It was different, like they both were different, but
Yeah.
like I definitely wouldn't for me it wasn't similar.
I think it was also like the coloring, like it's a lot darker. Like I feel like there are definitely like light, like bright shows and like darker shows.
Right, this for sure was a darker
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
So yeah, this is an interesting ride. Okay, so it's 12 episodes. It's on IG, put out by Star Halo, which is a new company we haven't seen anything from before.
Right, in partnership with 131.
Yes.
A company we do know much about.
Yes. And it has a whole gaggle of characters. So Weha is played by Hang, Wayu by Namchuk, Gun, Pebo, Pitch, Leo, Zoe is played by Boss, Pawin, Double, Korn played by New, and Mintra played by Oi.
Yes. It's super funny looking at how, and because I know you just copy and paste these in our little guides that we have. I was mentioning this when I was watching the show because I binged this show.
Yes.
And I was like, this poor boy Zoe has had his name romanized 3 different times.
The romanization of names is so funny. It's something that we have dealt with as people who interview these actors, because even the way you pronounce someone's name sometimes changes. And like we were talking about this the other day. So Gawain could be romanized 10 different ways.
Right.
It's a name that we're fairly familiar with, but Gawain, so somebody,
I don't know if fairly familiar. We know the name Gawain because of the Gawain.
but like I've heard it before, the Gawain that we know, I think.
Oh, I never have.
But anyway, somebody else romanizes it as Kavin.
Right, because in Thai, when you're romanizing the letter V, it's pronounced as a W.
And the K and the G are interchangeable.
Yes, apparently there is a difference, but there's not a difference to like the Western ear.
Yes.
To the Western ear. Anyways, I also was noticing with these romanizations that Weha, the way that you copied it, and I know it's a copy and paste, is different than how they romanize it in the show.
I wonder if my drama list gets it from the book.
Mintra has her name in the show romanized 2 or 3 different ways.
Yes.
This is one of the ways, but it's not the way that they end up sticking with in the end. So it's just like, it's fascinating to me to see all of the like romanizations of these names as they were pulled from my drama list, which is where we pull from.
Which you would think they would just go to like source material.
I don't know. I would think that you would go to the show description, right? Because like they always write the characters' names in like the ep descriptions, and that's what I would go off of, because the shows are not the books.
No. And
so we know this, and so like the shows are adaptations of books. They're their own work of art. So that's why I would go for what the like company has released.
Honestly, it's based on
like
translator
in promos and stuff. Like I would go with what the company has released in their promos.
Yeah. What I think I've seen is each translator decides what sounds closest to what they're hearing, I think.
And there are certain commonalities. So like Lung, for example, is just a word I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Everyone always romanizes it the same way.
Uh-huh.
And like Ka, everyone tends to romanize that the same way.
Yeah.
And so like, and there are some that like, and you can tell when people get it wrong, when people are just making up their own romanizations. Like there's one you do, I always forget which word it is.
Except not because,
and you romanize it differently every time you write it, and I always think it's so funny.
Because Ka isn't always romanized Ka. Sometimes I see it Kha.
Right. Mostly I see Kha.
Or even like Cub. I've seen it
Oh, I've seen that a million different ways.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah. I think like depending on the mood I'm in, I romanize.
I can't remember. Things. There's one word that like you romanize it different every time you write it. And I'm always like, oh, that's fun and fresh for her. She's come up with a new one.
I know I do that, but I'm trying to remember what word it is.
It's one word in particular. And every time I'm like, I can't wait to see what way Bethany's going to romanize it this time.
But that makes me realize that like translators are probably like, what does it sound like to me now? Like maybe I'm getting closer to what I think it should actually be pronounced as, because when we started learning Korean, people were like, do not speak romanized
Korean, right?
Do not
like learn the alphabet.
It is the easiest to learn the alphabet. And so, but with Thai you can't do that because you can learn the alphabet, but it'll take you a lot longer.
It'll take you a lot longer than the Korean alphabet. The Korean alphabet is like I think I learned it in a day.
You so fast. Okay, synopsis time.
Okay. Every house has rules. What would they be in the house of the top country star manager, a place where many top actors are gathered? They have to live together under the house rules and compete for their jobs. They have set their hearts and minds on becoming number one in the industry, but there's always a secret behind the curtain. Will they be able to suppress their desires? Will they be able to conceal their secrets? No. The answer is no. To all of those questions, the answer is no.
Where do you even start?
Okay,
do you go by couple?
I don't want to go by couple because everything was all mishmashed together, and the whole point of the show. Also, the whole point of the show had nothing to do with any of the couples.
Was there a point to the show?
Yes. I mean, we already said there will be spoilers ahead. It was Zoe murdering Susie. Okay. The whole point to the show was like retribution for P. Sin.
Right, because at the first episode is like P. Sin sitting in front of the TV. Yes. Yeah.
The whole point of the whole show was retribution for P. Sin.
I wish that it had come out that he wasn't actually...
He didn't actually have PTSD.
Right. I wish.
And he was like, had a hand.
He was the mastermind. That they were like partners in crime. That would have
been fun. Also, I will say, this one was funny because every time he said peace in, I flashed back to Jaw in the wig. I was like, peace in. It very much took me out of the moment because I kept thinking of Jaw in the wig. No, I don't think we go by couple because this show is not really about
maybe go by storyline.
Right. Like the ultimate point of the show was
let's go big
Susie
to small.
being murdered by Zoe. I think
because of the cover up of Gunn hitting the brother with the car.
Hitting P. Sin with his car. Yes. And it wasn't his brother, it was his distant cousin. He keeps being like my distant relatives. It turns out they were just besties. They were cousins that were besties. Yeah.
His P. Whatever that means.
His P. Yeah. We're watching a show right now that's a different show that's not this. That anytime he says like P-Mon, they keep romanizing it as like brother Mon, and it makes it sound very like strangely like religious.
It does.
It drives me crazy when they do that because
that was the first thing that like I had to get over when I got into BL is how they translate P.
They don't, but not everyone does it. No. I will say some translators are good about just putting like the person's name.
Just put the person's name.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Like that's what they're referring to. The P is like
it's an honorific for age.
Yeah. Like we don't.
Anyways, yes, so P. Sin. We also did learn, this is a fun language tip. Okay, so back in the day when we first started learning Thai, we had asked, how do you differentiate like a blood relative?
Yes.
Because like in English, if you say like, oh, this is my brother, Jack, that means my like actual relative brother.
Yes.
Not just like this person that's old, that is close to
unless
me.
You're in weird cults. And like brother in religious world.
Right. We're not talking about religious world, but in general, if you're like, this is my brother, right?
Yeah. We saw it in Star in My Mind. That whole, is he his P? He's his P.
Right. With Mech.
Yes.
Shout out, Mech.
Shout out.
But so anyways, we had asked, is there a differentiate? And we were told no. And we were like, oh, that must be confusing. And we know it is confusing because it's a plot point in some shows.
Yes.
But we figured this out through context clues not too long ago. That if you add the word for like girl or boy to P or Nong,
right,
that's how they're saying this is my actual family relative.
Right.
So like if they say peace out, they're saying that's my older sister, like my actual family relative.
Yes.
Or if they say like P Shai or Nong Shai or Nong Sao, they're talking about like, and so this is how this comes up in House of Stars actually, when Susie's son comes back.
Yeah.
And he like whispered, and this is the like revelation that blew my mind. I literally yelled. The host is Susie's daughter.
But adopted daughter.
You don't find out adopted till later.
Right.
But if somebody's adopted, they're still that person's daughter. Like, let's not make that differentiation.
But it explains the like animosity of why like the blood child is like so angry that like she's been the like
no, that guy, no, that didn't have anything to do with him being upset. No, the adoption didn't have anything to do with him being upset.
It all makes no sense.
No, that it had nothing to do with her being adopted. Where he leans in and he's like, oh, I hope you take care of me, Nong Sao. And that's the revelation of like, that's his actual like family sister. Anyways, it's a very interesting tie note.
There's so many things.
P-Sin with Zoe is actually his cousin, but they're like besties. And in the beginning, Zoe is like,
they're very close.
This is my distant relative. And he like tries to play it off, but it turns out.
Do you think that's for the celebrity of it all?
No, because that's what he tells like Pitch and everyone too. And he's hiding it because he doesn't want them to catch on to his plan that he's there to like.
Because he knows Gunn has run him over.
Well, he knows, because he saw Gunn get out of the car. Because he saw P-Sin get hit by the car. Because you get a flashback at the end when he's exposing Gunn at the award show.
Right.
And he sees Gunn get out of the car.
Yes.
So he knows from the beginning.
Because you don't know from the beginning that Pitch was there.
You mean Zoe?
That Zoe was there. That Zoe saw it all.
You don't know until the flashback.
Because he was on the phone with his P.
Right. You don't know until the flashback where P-Sin is like, turn around, and he turns around and sees it. And so this actually, I will say, it was a pretty good twist because it explains, like the whole time I'm watching this show and I'm like, Zoe is getting like a little too weirdly upset that Pitch is into Gunn. I was like, why is he weirdly annoyed by this? Like, they're not really a couple. Like, it's obvious Zoe has a crush on him, all this stuff. It makes sense that you would be particularly annoyed if your crush now has a crush on the dude that hit your cousin with his car and then got away with it. Like,
because like it's very like bro energy between Pitch and Zoe. Like, you get a little bit at the beginning that because they're like a ship, that they like, that there's like crush feelings on one of their sides.
Yeah, it's very obvious Zoe has a little crush.
But then when Zoe is confronting Pitch about how he feels about Gunn, it very much comes across as like, why you like this boy?
Well, and
like, it's not romantic.
It's very like weirdly possessive. Like, I remember watching that episode and being like, ooh, why is he so possessive over this boy that he's not dating, that he knows is just his friend? Now it makes more sense. Like, at the end, so I did. He's like, I'm trying to take this boy down. Yeah. Because it was more about like, imagine if you have a crush on someone and you consider them your friend, and it turns out they're like crushing hard on the dude that not only you're trying to expose and take down, but also like hit your cousin with you watched them hit your cousin with their car, right? And then get away with it. Yeah. So like, it made more sense. And the whole time, I remember even at the end before it got revealed of like that Zoe is the one that murdered Susie and all this stuff, I was like, Zoe got a little crazy, but I still like him.
I was waiting because they reveal it at like the 9th hour,
the very last minute of the show.
Yeah.
I liked it. I still like Zoe. Honestly, Zoe's my favorite character in the show.
I get him.
I like Zoe. And listen, I support him taking down the people that put his cousin in a psychiatric hospital for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I support that.
I get that. That feels right.
I mean, violence isn't the answer. I do think potentially he shouldn't have murdered her via plum.
As we have learned.
This is it's like Clue. It's like Zoe. It's like Zoe on the terrace with the plum. Like,
I mean, it's a very Clue style house too, because you have all these characters. You have like the manager, you have the actor, you have the like aspiring actor. You have that's really funny.
Yeah. It's Zoe by the pool with the plum juice.
I need like an actual BL Clue situation.
That would be legit.
Mundi could absolutely do it.
Actually, I feel like it should be a GL because Clue has better girl characters than boy characters.
That would be cute. JMMTV, if you're listening.
Actually, Mundi could do a good Clue. Or, no, Idol Factory. Becky Freed. I've got the next project.
Yes. Oh, that would be so good.
I figured it out. Anyways.
Okay. That felt like the overarching timeline through this whole show.
Right.
That was
the main point of the show.
Okay. In relation to that storyline, this Gunn Pitch situation,
Listen, Pitch, I understand you. Gunn is very cute. I remember when he first showed up in that show, I was like, ooh, he's hot.
He's so
but
cute.
He's a boy that knows he's hot. Like, he definitely seems like the worst. What's his name in real life?
Peppo.
Oh, that's really cute.
It's very cute. I get him. I get Gunn. He showed up to set in a drink truck. I also would show up to set in a drink truck if I liked a boy. And Gunn, yeah. Gunn is in that drink truck on set, like passing out the drinks. I thought you meant
like in the beginning. I was like, what?
No, like halfway through, they're like on set. It's right after they have that weird show within a show moment where you're like, is he telling him that he likes him? And then it turns out like it's not actually. They had a lot of those moments with Pitch and Zoe and Gunn, where it's like a show within a show, or like a dream, that dream sequence where they're sitting in the rain.
Yes, they did it a lot too with Weha and Wayu, where like right after Weha and Wayu like kiss for the first time, and he walks on set and like, but you don't know it's on set, and it looks like Wayu's kissing that girl, and I was truly shooketh. I was like so upset.
And at the end where they're like fighting on set, and you're like,
well, you knew that was a role because they had like,
yeah.
The manager who's evil but not evil.
I thought they played it really sweet though with Gunn and Pitch, where like they didn't actually kiss, they didn't actually have any relationship development. He was basically like, I like you, and he was like, I like you too, and he was like, okay, I'm not ready to kiss, but let's flirt still. It was very wholesome.
Honestly, I thought the whole thing was really stupid. I got those two have zero chemistry. Those two have like negative chemistry.
It's very, very Pinot.
I did appreciate, and I am going to go back and learn where he is like, please let me keep pursuing you. Like, I feel like that's a useful phrase to know in Thai. I did appreciate that. I thought that was funny. I don't know. I was not into the Pitch and Gunn of it all.
It was a weird secondary story. I get that it added to the whole Zoe of it all.
Right. It's what made Zoe
even more
crazy.
Yeah. And what tied it all together, right? Like there was a through line through each of the three of them,
right?
And that made sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about Weha and Wayu. My favorite part of this whole show, absolutely, my favorite character of this whole show is probably Weha.
Weha's very cute.
He's
I love the way they did his styling throughout the show.
The way, or maybe, no, sorry. I like Wayu. Wayu, I thought that he handled this, like, development of this relationship because he very much had the crush on the, like, sweet, innocent boy and was like, I'm going to have to ease him into this because this boy has never dated another person before. This boy is so new to this industry. Like, he's trying to make things happen for himself, like, work-wise, and I'm like a P who he is relying on to like help him in the industry, so I can't take advantage of like.
It definitely could have been a weird power dynamic situation because he was like his senior in the company and also his teacher on some level. I preferred Weha of the two of them.
Yeah.
Weha, I really love the way they did his styling because they grew him up throughout the show.
They did.
Like, I did notice that, and maybe it was very obvious because I binged it.
He had that glow up, that celebrity glow up.
I don't know. I thought he was cuter before, like, pre-glow up with, like, his little shaggy hair and, like, the plaid shirts.
Yeah.
And then when he got a role, right, like, once he finally passed the audition,
right,
they grew him up. They aged him up a little bit, and they, like, started doing his hair differently, and he started wearing these like t-shirts that showed off his muscles. It had like a grown-up body kind of thing.
The styling
like,
overall was pretty good.
Yeah, they did a really, really good job, I felt like, especially with Weha for like physically showing his growth.
Yeah.
Like, which I thought was a very, like, it was just a cool addition. Also, he was just so innocent and cute the
I know.
whole time.
And I liked that he stayed innocent, even when he got into a relationship, and you very much still had this, like, Wayu was the lead in that relationship. Like that scene in the bedroom where he's like, I'm going to leave the house because I very much like you and I want to make our relationship public. And Weha is like, I like you too. I want to also be in this relationship. It's like such a sweet moment.
Yeah, I love them, and I love that they never got involved in any of the drama.
Yeah.
They were kind of around for it and sort of watched it happen, but they never got like pulled into it, which I thought was sweet. And I just really like them together. I like that he like taught him how to kiss for the little scene with the little girl.
What, in the Ponpuin?
It was very cute, except Ponpuin were kissing each other on the screen. There wasn't like someone else.
Right.
It was just all very cute. Weha and Wayu were very, very cute. I also like how Wayu at one point like pops off on Susie and is like, I kissed him because I wanted to.
That was very cute. They were definitely the grounding of this show. I think if we hadn't have had their storyline, this would have been like...
It would have been too soap opera-y. Although, listen, I did love what a crazy telenovela this was. Yeah, I did like that.
Yeah, that was fun.
Okay, let's get to the real mess.
Oh my gosh.
Pawan and Korn and Mintra. What to say about these?
This was so funny. I mean, here's the thing. In true BL world fashion, this is the scene that got everyone talking. This is the scene that's going to draw those BL fans into this show and be like, what in the world?
Here's what I will say. Korn got what he deserved in the end.
Hundo P.
I appreciate that the girls and the gays rallied and came back together, united in the end.
And she was never evil.
No. She got painted as a bitch, and she was acting like a bitch.
Yes.
But she was fully, and I had to explain this because I binged it and you had already watched it, and I was like, no. There's a flashback of like these two falling in love, and like he may have treated it as like a contract, but like she never did, and he took advantage of her the whole time. It wasn't one-sided though. Like there are flashbacks that she has of like him being just as participatory in that relationship. And so like they were in a real relationship, and like listen, is Pawan still went after someone else's man. That's not an okay thing to do regardless of if they're in a relationship with a girl or a guy. Like you can't just go after someone else's man if you know they're someone else's man.
Okay, so I went back and rewatched some scenes, and so I definitely think it was one of those things where Korn, as we saw towards the end, took full advantage of both of these people, even more so Mintra, because he had longevity with her and he knew that she had deeper feelings for him. He was just trying to get laid.
He was the worst, and he wasn't just trying to get laid.
So
like, he
dirty.
was the worst. Like she was acting like a bitch, but she was entitled. He
just wanted attention.
She was the one that got her man stolen. Like she was the one that was wronged by everyone involved, right? Like
I do love
Pawan wronged her by going after her man and then acting like he was entitled to him.
I do love that.
That's messed up.
I do love that she got back at Pawan in some like really good ways that like worked for this show, right? Like she spread rumors on the internet and she made this scene where like everyone
like he had pushed her.
Yeah, like everyone went against Pawan. So like she did get her payback. Like as much as like Korn was never going to go back to her. Like he was done with it. He was like,
but he did go back to her. That was the thing is like,
right. Cause he wanted to get laid. And then when she realized that, she was like, oh, never mind. He didn't actually love me. Or he doesn't actually still love me. Like this is over. Because he says
she literally breaks up. They break up 3 times in this show.
Because she also says she's like, or I love that she's the one at the end who's like, we're done. Like,
in the third breakup. So she breaks up with him twice. He breaks up with her once.
Yeah, she gets to be the one to be like, we're done.
And then she breaks up with him when they're like doing it by the pool. Yeah. And then they get back together again. And then she breaks up with him in the end. Like,
because he's the one that says like, why are you still trying to pursue this relationship that is over? Like it's already done. And she's like, I was never done.
There's more to the relationship than that. Like, don't write off our relationship.
And I think I've seen that in real life where it's like there's more to a relationship for certain people on one side than the other. And it's nice to see both characters come to a place of like resolution.
Well, she also reflects on all the like shitty things she did, which I thought was like cool and interesting because like she also like, and you see the flashback of like Pawan didn't really push her, and you see all of the like manipulation, and she even owns up to it. Like when she breaks up with him, she's like, I need to say sorry to you because I manipulated you. Yeah. And she's like, I just hope that you move on from this and you don't get manipulated again. Like,
yeah, they were fun friends. It is funny. There was a line at the end where she was like, we're in love. And I think
Pawan says it. Pawan is like, Mintra and I love each other. And I was like,
you're like, wait.
It took me a minute. I was like, hold on. I was like, is this a big reveal the whole time? They've actually been doing it. And like, they were trying to get it. But no, they meant like they're friends.
They're besties. Like, yeah.
It took me a minute though because it was such weird phrasing. I was like, what?
It was such traumatic.
This show is so psycho that actually could have been a plot line.
Yeah, that feels right. I mean, overall,
also, I will say I think that it should have been telling to Pawan that Korn only wanted to hook up with him when he was drunk.
Yeah.
Like that should have been telling.
Yeah. I mean, I do love that they ended the show with the fact that Korn has seen the BL light and he wants to go be a BL boy.
Right.
And that he gets paired with
He
Pollen.
ends up getting paired with Pollen, which is so funny. Yeah. But like, it's so funny too because then they like see each other at the award show and Korn is like, bye. So it's like, it's interesting because it's a situation of this like ship in a show that wants nothing to do with each other outside of the show. And like, the question becomes, and like part of these kinds of shows is to make you as the viewer wonder like, who is that ship in real life? I know.
I'm dying to know if there are any two actors that have hooked up or even hooked up with a friend of a friend, like a friend of an actor. Like they have some type of like romantic connection and then they have to go like be a ship.
But they like, it's just an interesting, it makes you like, you as a viewer are supposed to wonder like, who's the ship in real life that doesn't actually speak to each other behind the scenes.
I didn't see much conversation around this show. I don't know how popular this show was.
I feel like everyone watched it. I think it was tough for a lot of like, even me, like I dragged, once we get to like Susie being murdered plot, I was like, oh Lord. I was like, I don't care.
It did wrap up nicely though.
They did a really good job with Ep 12. Actually, they really did.
This
Ep 10 and 11 were rough.
This could have been like 8 episodes.
Yeah. Eps 10 and 11 were rough. I maybe would have combined 10, maybe like 9, 10, and 11 into one episode. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like, just like, now that I think about it, I do think you need all those storylines as it relates to the overall thing. I don't know if you necessarily needed like the children of Susie having their whole thing.
I think it's a really good distraction from Zoe. Yeah. Because the whole point of the show was that like Zoe joined the company to murder this woman, right? Like get them, right? And so like there's so much going on that you're distracted until they show all the flashbacks that like Zoe has actually been up to no good from the beginning and you just don't notice him. Oh. It's like a sleight of hand trick.
Genius.
It actually is pretty interesting, but it did drag. I will say by the time I hit like 9, 10, 11, I was like, okay, let's get like, all right.
Well, and it's interesting. I think this is one of those experiences when you binge it versus watch it live. We had the same experience, whereas sometimes I feel like a show hits better if you binge it than if you watch it live. Whereas this one, it was like I watched it every week and it kept my interest because I was like, oh, I haven't seen these characters and I kind of like these characters. But also I was like, I watched it at some point in the week. It wasn't like I was watching it the day it came out. I was like, I'll get into it eventually.
Yeah, I think I am glad I binged this and I almost didn't because I was behind on this show and I had downloaded it for when we were like flying to Thailand and you were like, you can't watch that in public. And then I binged the show and I was like, I could have totally watched this in public. Like I see people watching like Game of Thrones on planes.
Yeah, because
like,
F5 had just come out and I was like, oh, they're fully banging naked. So potentially.
I was like, this isn't any more like.
Yeah. Pearl clutching.
Yeah. Than like Game of Thrones, like some of the stuff like Western stuff I watch people watch on planes. So like I could have. Yeah. But I am still kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it as a binge. And there are some shows, like there's a show I'm watching live right now that I watched this week's episode and I was like, I should have binged this one. Because like it's kind of disjointed if you're watching it week to week.
Right. Yeah, when you watch week to week, it's hard to remember what happened at the beginning.
It also sometimes can feel jarring to like jump right into the episode depending on how they shoot it.
Right.
Where you're like, okay.
Unless they give you like a previously on.
Even with the previously on, like this one for like that I'm talking about, like when they started the episode, I was like, we started? Okay. Like it's very jarring. Like it's cut together so like suddenly. But I feel like if you were to binge it, you wouldn't have like it would just it would flow more smoothly. But not with this show. I think you could do it either way and it would be good. But I do think I prefer that I binged it.
Yeah.
Because I think I would have dropped it. I think I would have hit episode 9 and then never finished it if I had been doing it week to week.
Yeah, that is the difference between a binge and a week to week. It was overall a decent show.
I liked it. I would watch it again. I hope we get more like mystery BLs. I did like the mystery of it all.
Yeah. I like a dark theme.
I also
keep you guessing.
I think another thing that we talked about, because I was binging it and you had already seen it, is that like the question is like did part of the reason the show didn't hit as much, because I would have thought this show would hit really well.
Yeah.
But we were like, is maybe one of the reasons this show didn't hit as much because fans don't like the idea that like everyone in a company isn't necessarily friends, because it's very much force fed down our throats that like everybody in GMMTV is besties, and everybody in Domundi is besties, and everybody in all these companies,
they're not just work colleagues,
are besties. And so I was like, I do wonder if it like hit a little too close for fans to like the idea that like not everybody in a company like is besties, that they'll go in front of cameras and act like besties,
right?
And they'll like go to each other's fan meetings, because you get the Zoe and Pitch fan meeting that they're all at, and they're all being cute and whatever. And so like the idea that like the cameras turn off and there's no one there and they're not actually besties. In fact, maybe they're at each other's throats. Like,
yeah, I think BL world is one place where people really don't like a look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And they're like, because we saw it with War of Y, where people were like, I'm watching this show, but I don't really like that I'm watching this show.
And like, so the other part that I was like, ooh, maybe fans don't love this whole situation was the, oh my gosh, what was her name? Starts with an L.
Oh, Lita,
the fangirl. And so, like,
that was a wild
first of all, she went full secret crush on you and was stealing their garbage.
I love it.
And then she was, like, physically hurting them.
Yeah.
And then she turned full successful stan and infiltrated.
Yes.
And then she got to become their manager. And then when she was talking to the dude manager who's evil but not evil.
Yes.
And she was like, what do you think of stalker fans? And she used the word say-saying. Like, I did pick up, I did notice that.
Right.
And he was like, you know, I'm not okay with that, but I think we really need to, like, look at it from their point of view. And he kind of was being, like, a say-saying apologist. And then, I was like, this is weird.
In the same conversation, he goes, you have heard the saying that you can like them, but you can't get them to like you. And she was like, no, I've never heard that.
Like, it was a very weird moment where it, like, it sort of turned into this PSA in defense of stalkers. Like, it was so weird that I was like, ooh, maybe people didn't like that, the idea that like a company would actually be okay with stalkers, because as fans collectively, aside from the say-sayings themselves, we all kind of agree that like the stalking and the say-saying behavior is not okay.
It's too much.
And so like I was like, ooh, maybe that's why people, because I was like, this is weird. So I was like, maybe that's why people like, it just was uncomfortable to watch her like have a happy storyline.
Yeah, there was no real tie to her storyline. She was definitely the more open-ended.
And there was no consequences to what she did. She's sending them like bloody rats and stuff. And
that
like,
was weird.
There were no consequences. She didn't learn anything. She got everything she wanted. It just was very strange.
She was going into the industry herself, so potentially she'll have a stalker.
Well, no, she, at the end of her, she turns into a manager. She's like, I don't want to be an actress anymore.
Right.
She was like, because she has this whole conversation with the host where she's like, I came in with a motive, and I don't want to be an actor. I just want to take care of them. And host is like, why don't you become my assistant? And so she like,
Lord of mercy,
gets everything she wants. She gets to take care of them and be close. Like, it's just a very weird, like, don't be a say-saying, don't be a stalker. This isn't real life. Like, that won't happen for you. I don't like...
It's all very strange.
Very strange. So it's like maybe fans didn't like that because it was sort of an uncomfortable storyline.
Okay, here's a question. I storied about a series that I started watching just for fun this week, and people were like, I watched it. I wouldn't recommend other people watched it, but I liked it. And I was like, that's an interesting thought. So would you recommend this to watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
And you liked it?
I liked it.
Yeah. It's a funny thought that you're like, I liked a show, but don't watch it. Don't waste your time.
No, I mean, there are some shows like that where, I would say like, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't put it at the top of your list. This one, I would say put it on your list if you need, like, if you want to download something for a plane, if you want to watch something, like, especially, I will say, listen, I'm gonna say it, especially with what's out right now. if you like need something to watch, I feel you. This would be a good one.
It was fun.
We're in a little bit of a drought at the moment, in my opinion.
Interesting. Oh, you're gonna light the internet on fire.
Am I? Like, what's out that's not, like, what's out that
so many things
everybody loves?
So many things
that everybody like unanimously loves. Because I see pockets of people loving like individual
certain things.
Yeah, but not like usually there's at least one show out that unanimously everybody's like, oh my god.
I feel like I'm hearing just conversations about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. like the events that are happening.
Yeah, but as far as I can tell, there's not a show that everybody unanimously.
And people are raving about shows on the day that they're coming out, but there's not a continuation of that conversation throughout the week.
And like any of the shows, like Be My Favorite is hitting pretty hard, but like it's about to end.
Yeah.
So like, and there's nothing else that's out that I've seen people unanimously love. So
people
like,
are just talking about OnlyFriends. They're just like, give us OnlyFriends.
It's not out yet though. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're in a drought right now and you need something to watch, I would say throw this one in there. I thought it was fun. I binged it and I thought it was a good watch.
Yeah. This has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.